In 1880, David Barry photographed Rain in the Face, a Lakota leader, in a portrait that crossed generations. He appears with a Winchester Model 73, an icon of the West. 4 years earlier, he had taken part in the plan that led to Custer's defeat at Little Bighorn. The image remained as a symbol of a vast era on the plains. A. Frank Randall photographed the Apache people in Arizona and New Mexico between 1883 and 1887. In this scene, an unidentified girl poses next to a dog, near a cart pulled by a donkey. The exact location is uncertain. Clues suggest the presence of a tennis court, possibly close to Fort Apache. Between spring and fall, the cowboys of the West, including those from Wyoming outfits, followed a grueling routine. Far from ranch houses and tables, meals rarely had a roof. Often they ate on the ground under open skies. Among saddles and dust, the road decided the day's menu, always on the move. Before continuing, click subscribe and leave a like. Between 1894 and 1905, the streets of Dawson in the Yukon held a discreet spectacle. A boy would lie flat on a low cart with no horse, no engine. In front, a trained pack of dogs guided the ride. Steady rhythm, sharp turns, and the whole town would pause for a moment to follow the parade with their eyes. In 1950, Ollie Brushy Bill Roberts came forward with a confession. He claimed to be Billy the Kid. The official version insists the gunslinger was killed in 1881. He, however, claimed he had escaped and lived under another name. To back up his story, he went to Fort Sumner, New Mexico, where Pat Garrett was said to have killed the young outlaw. Johnny Ringo, born in 1850 in Indiana, followed a path that placed him among the outlaws of the West. From ambushes and duels to the Mason County War in Texas, his name spread. Years later, he would be linked to the shootout at the OK Corral in Tombstone, sealing forever a reputation forged in fire and lead. Born in Wisconsin to a wealthy family, she traded comfort for the West and its uncertainties. She denied the rumor of kinship with General Sam Houston. With education and a safe path at hand, she could have stayed. She chose risk instead. She fell in love with Morgan Earp, a key figure in the famous OK Corral gunfight. There she redrew her own destiny. In Santa Fe, the old mission church, known as San Miguel Mission, was built around 1610. It is considered the oldest church in the United States outside Puerto Rico. It rose from Franciscan efforts to convert native peoples and suppress resistance, becoming a landmark of Spanish colonial rule. Out on the range, a cowboy wore whatever worked. Hours on horseback demanded clothes that could take the beating. A button-down shirt in cotton or wool balanced cold and heat. Jeans, sturdy and simple, could be washed and dried without trouble. Piece by piece, the outfit became a tool. Choices forged by the trail and the cattle. On May 10, 1869, in Promontory, Utah, two rail lines met, the tracks of the Central Pacific and the Union Pacific. The first U.S. Transcontinental Railroad was born, uniting East and West and transforming transportation across the country. For the first time, the nation was connected coast to coast. Journeys that once took months could now be done in just a few days. Set deep in the Black Hills of South Dakota, Deadwood was founded in 1876 at the height of the gold rush. In just a few years, it became a hub of mining and business. With weak laws, it welcomed bandits and famous names. Between clashes and deals, it helped forge the image of the Old West, a past that still echoes. Before continuing, click subscribe and leave a like. In the Indian Wars, a regiment of African Americans earned renown in the U.S. Army. The Cheyenne began calling them Buffalo Soldiers, impressed by their strength and consistency in battle. As the first black men in the regular ranks, they paved the way and left a lasting legacy that still resonates today. More than the OK Corral shootout, Doc Holliday lived a life full of twists. Born in Georgia in 1851 to a planter and a doctor, he received a solid education. With discipline, he chose dentistry and graduated at 20. Later, he headed west. There, his reputation grew and the legend took shape. In 1869, the U.S. launched the Wheeler Survey to explore and map the West. Under the command of Captain George M. Wheeler of the Corps of Engineers, a diverse team crossed plains, mountains, and deserts. Surveyors, geologists, botanists, zoologists, and photographers collected data that would guide future decisions. Before maps, the Black Canyon already stood tall. Along the Gunnison River, the land cycles guided the Ute, Paiute, Navajo, and Hopi. They fished, farmed, and followed trails between cliffs. On the way, they carved symbols, shaped pottery, and crafted tools. These traces remain and still tell their story. Stagecoach travel was a test of endurance. From Tipton, Missouri to San Francisco, it was 2,800 miles across arid, little-explored lands. The journey took about 25 days, sometimes longer, depending on weather and mishaps. At every stop, harnesses had to be checked, horses swapped, and the ride continued with care. Between 1874 and 1900, for 26 years, the Cabinet Saloon was the heart of Whiskey Row in Prescott, Arizona. There, conversations, deals, and breaks from routine all came together. Cold beer, cocktails, imported mineral water, and top-quality whiskey. A counter that joined people, habits, and stories that became memory. Alfred A. Hart, an Englishman born in 1816 who moved to the U.S. as a child, became the eye of the Transcontinental Railroad. His photos followed the connection of east to west in the 19th century and turned construction sites, tracks, and workers into a visual narrative of a country in transformation. In them, we see technological progress and its tensions. Before continuing, click subscribe and leave a like. In the 19th century, Crazy Horse, born around 1840, grew up among the Lakota. In his youth, he absorbed his people's values, and in battle, he showed courage and strategy. The respect he earned led him to leadership, guiding resistance against the U.S. Army that sought to drive them from their lands. Between 1896 and 1897, the Rufus Buck gang spread fear across Indian Territory, today part of Oklahoma. Made up of 5 young men, 2 African American and 3 tied to the Creek and Seminole nations, the gang robbed farms, businesses, and travelers, leaving a trail of violence and tension wherever they went. In 1900, a farmer paused his milking and created an unlikely moment. On the nameless farm, he aimed the stream of milk straight into the mouth of a waiting cat. The cat stretched out, confident. The man smiled. In seconds, the chore became play, and the photo captured this silent pact that turned routine into charm. Early 20th century. Maybe in Nevada, Paula Hubbard appears in a carriage behind the steady trot of a horse. She leans back, taking in the landscape, while a dog watches and follows. Wheels sing, hooves mark the ground. In that brief rhythm, the road condenses time and departure, as if the trip held its breath. In the 19th century, the Old West gathered settlers, adventurers, bandits, and native peoples. Amid dust and danger, men without families found in saloons something beyond the counter, a haven to share experiences, rest their minds, set directions, trade silences, and form bonds that kept them standing. In Deadwood, South Dakota, the old-style Saloon No. 10 opened its doors in 1876, at the height of the gold rush. Over time, it became the setting for tales that helped define the Old West. The most famous episode happened at a poker table. Wild Bill Hickok was shot dead there in front of everyone, and the bar became legend. In the 1800s, the region that would become the Old West brought together settlers, adventurers, outlaws, and indigenous nations. In that world, dogs supported daily life. They guarded camps, hunted, herded livestock, and followed their owners. They had been there long before, domesticated by native peoples well before Europeans and their horses arrived. We've reached the end of our video. Subscribe to our channel and leave a comment if you enjoyed the content. See you next time.